Episode 372. Inside the happy internet cafe, Yu Shu, Tang Ru, and Chen Guo were all wide awake and full of energy. It was already past midnight. Though it was Christmas Eve, it was also, unmistakably, a Monday. Christmas isn't a public holiday, so those celebrating have to keep things a bit more subdued. As for the game, even with the Christmas event, it can't replace real life. Neutral. Once it hits the late night hours, the crowds thin out considerably. This was true everywhere. The new servers, the old servers, even the heavenly domain. Those who stuck it out online undoubtedly gained more room to play. By the dead of night, the chorus of complaints about not being able to find any Christmas thieves had noticeably died down. It was this clear improvement in her earnings that helped Chen Guo power through the worst of her drowsiness. Chen Guo, who wasn't in the habit of staying up late, was now wide awake in the dead of night. In the 10th server's City of Sin, this was probably the only place in all of Glory untouched by the late hour. The top-level characters for the major guilds were all grinding around the clock. Pulling all-nighters was completely normal. During this time when player counts were dropping across the board, Sin City had the same number of people online in the afternoon as it did now, and that number was still far, far lower than the players active in any other leveling zone. Even picking up crumbs is a better life than theirs. All the online players were busy, and Yu Shu was no exception. Tang Ru and Su Macheng had initially been sticking close to him, ready to handle any trouble. But after dealing with the characters sent by Excellent Dynasty that first time, they never saw any more troublemakers show up. For this round, Chen Youhui had already accepted his defeat. On Ye Shu's side, he's already allied with 12 guilds. To cause trouble now would be no different from a moth flying into a flame. Chen Youhui had been losing for a while now. Though furious, he still had the sense to go pick up the crumbs. So Tang Ru and Su Mucheng ended up just running around with Ye Qiu's Lord Grimm, a role Tang Ru found utterly boring. After tagging along twice with nothing to do, the girl took her soft mist and went off to pull monsters like any other player. In the end, only Su Mucheng's Windward Formation stayed behind Lord Grimm, following Ye Qiu. They'd chat when they had something to say, and when they didn't, they'd work in comfortable silence. Su Mucheng was skilled enough to gather her own mobs. When unexpected situations arose, she'd often step in to help Ye Qiu manage the aggro. After the initial excitement wore off, the players from the various guilds gradually settled into a more placid state of mind. But watching their rank climb steadily up the leaderboard kept their motivation burning strong. The night grew deeper, but with Glory's massive player base, even though the vast majority had logged off to rest, a huge night shift remained, keeping the world from feeling empty. And with the new server's population so concentrated, competition in the main leveling zones remained fierce. The world was full of complaints, players cursing about not finding monsters, others yelling about kill stealing, and more swearing over lousy loot box pulls. And even as dawn broke, the chorus never let up. 7 in the morning for any habitual night owl. This is usually the time they start to wind down. Chen Youhui was also a habitual night owl. Like Ye Qiu, this was normally the time he'd be heading to bed. The difference was, his character would keep on being leveled up. That morning, Chen Youhui dragged his weary body along, but his eyes were wide open. Lord Grimm wasn't on his friends list, but there were always ways to know when he logged off. 7 o'clock. After long observation, he knew Yu Qiu's habits well. Chen Youhui had been waiting for this moment all night. He decided to tough it out, wait for Ye Qiu to go to sleep, then get to work himself. He'd use those few hours while the guy was resting to really go after those Christmas thieves. He'd already thought through a dozen different approaches, but as the seconds ticked by, no word ever came. Chen Youhui couldn't help but send a message to ask. The other party was naturally helpless. Whether Lord Grimm logged off or not was something only Lord Grimm knew. All he could see was that Lord Grimm's name was still lit up.
This guy.
Anxious Youhui felt a creeping unease. If he could steel himself to keep working, what was stopping Youhui from doing the same? Ye Qiu was famously energetic in the circle. Even back in his pro days, he'd pull all-nighters constantly. That was one of the excuses he and Lu Hao used to attack him.
Looks like he's not planning on sleeping at all.
By 8 o'clock, Chen Youhui, seeing no news was forthcoming, felt his exhaustion double and was already yawning non-stop. Finally, after some thought, He gave a quick instruction to the person taking over his shift.
Wake me up the moment Lord Grimm logs off.
Then he went to get some rest. 36 hours. There's no way he could go without resting the whole time, right? Chen Yahui believed he could shave off the rest time. Whether he could last the full 36 hours was still up in the air, but he'd already made it through 24. By noon, Yishu was still slumped over his computer, looking a bit listless. But then again, that was his usual state most of the time. When Chen Guo woke up at noon, she was startled. She had finally given in to exhaustion and gone to rest at 6 in the morning. But she was fixated on the once-a-year Christmas event. After sleeping for less than 6 hours, she hurriedly got up, ready to dive back into the fight. But when she came downstairs, Yakshu was still sitting there, looking like he hadn't moved an inch.
Did you oversleep?
Chen Guo turned around, pulling out her chair as she asked.
No.
Yakshu shook his head.
Aren't you tired?
Chen Guo was quite surprised, but so far, EXU had only been awake for 24 hours. Chen Guo was a bit surprised, but not shocked. After all, she'd stayed up until 6 in the morning herself.
Not bad.
You're not tired either.
Chen Guo then turned to ask Tang Ru, who was still in the middle of her own battle.
Not bad.
Tang Ru's tone of voice was almost identical to Ye Shu's.
Well, you two are something else.
Chen Guo said as she booted up her computer. Over at Excellent Era, Chen Yehui was also preoccupied with the event. He'd slept at 8 in the morning and woken up just 4 hours later. After a moment of grogginess, thoughts of Yekyu and Lord Grimm jolted him fully awake. He scrambled out of bed and rushed to the studio. No one had called for him, which meant Lord Grimm still hadn't logged off.
This guy really can grind, but he's gotta be close to his limit now.
Lost in thought, Chen Youhi entered the studio and walked up behind the player who was currently using his 10th server character.
Is Lord Grimm still online?
The other person acknowledged him, and upon seeing Chen Youhi arrive, stood up to offer his seat. He was far from busy, scrounging for crumbs in Sin City.